The stars stretched endlessly, an infinite ocean of light and shadow, their distant glow casting a faint, cold luminescence against the darkened bridge of the USS Starfire. The ship moved through the void with an almost spectral grace, its hull gleaming faintly as it cut through the silence of space. Inside, the air was heavy, not with sound but with a weight of expectation, of unanswered questions that lingered like ghosts in the minds of the crew. Captain Ethan Carter stood near the viewport, his tall, commanding figure framed by the vast emptiness beyond. His hands were clasped tightly behind his back, fingers interlocked as if to anchor himself against the unease that had begun to creep into his thoughts. His sharp blue eyes, steady and unblinking, gazed out into the void, searching for anything that might break the oppressive monotony of the stars. Yet all he found was an endless expanse of nothingness, a silence so profound it seemed to hum faintly in his ears. Behind him, the quiet murmur of the crew at their stations was a reminder of the life that still clung to this fragile vessel. The hum of machinery, the soft beeps of monitors, the occasional rustle of movement, these sounds, though small, felt amplified in the stillness. And then, cutting through it all, came the voice of Commander Mia Harper. "We're at the edge of human space, Captain," she said, her tone measured but tinged with unease. Her dark eyes flicked up from the glowing console in front of her, meeting his gaze briefly before returning to the data scrolling across her screen. "This is where the colony ships disappeared." Ethan's jaw tightened, his expression hardening as her words settled over him like a shroud. He had known they were nearing the region, but hearing it spoken aloud seemed to make it more real, more immediate. He turned slightly, his gaze shifting from the stars to the faint reflection of his crew in the glass. The bridge was dimly lit, the glow of monitors casting shadows that danced across the walls, making the space feel smaller, more confined. "6 ships," he said at last, his voice low but steady, carrying a weight that seemed to echo in the silence. "Hundreds of people. Families. Scientists. Explorers. Gone without a trace." Mia nodded, her lips pressing into a thin line as she glanced back at her console. No distress signals. No debris fields. No energy signatures. Just nothing. Her voice faltered slightly, as if the very act of describing such a void was unsettling. "It's as if they were erased." The word hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Erased. It was a thought that had crossed Ethan's mind more than once since they'd been assigned this mission. The idea that something or someone had the power to make entire ships vanish without leaving so much as a whisper behind was a chilling prospect. And yet, here they were, standing on the precipice of that very mystery. The Starfire had been sent to find answers, but so far, the void had offered none. The ship's sensors, advanced and far-reaching, had scoured the surrounding space for any trace of the missing vessels, but the results were always the same: silence. It was not the silence of peace or stillness, but something deeper, more insidious. It was the silence of an absence so complete it felt unnatural, as if the void itself had conspired to conceal the truth. Ethan turned back to the viewport, his eyes narrowing slightly as he scanned the stars. Out here, at the edge of human space, the stars seemed different. Their light was colder, more distant, as if they were watching from a place beyond comprehension. There was no comfort in their glow, no sense of wonder, only a quiet reminder of how small they truly were in the face of the infinite. A faint shiver ran down his spine, though he refused to let it show. He was a man of logic, of discipline, and yet there was something about this place that unsettled him in a way he couldn't quite explain. It wasn't fear, exactly, but a gnawing sense of foreboding, as if the void itself was alive, watching, waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets. "Do you think we'll find them, Captain?" Mia's voice was softer now, almost hesitant, as if she wasn't sure she wanted to hear the answer. She turned to face him, her expression a mixture of hope and doubt, her hands resting lightly on the edge of her console. Ethan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he let his gaze linger on the stars, his mind racing with possibilities. Pirates? Unlikely. Natural disasters? Possible, but it didn't explain the complete lack of evidence. And then there was the other possibility, the one he hadn't spoken aloud but which lingered in the back of his mind like a shadow, that something out here, something unknown, had taken them. Finally, he turned to her, his expression calm but resolute. "We'll find something," he said, his voice steady and certain. "One way or another, we'll get answers." Mia nodded, though the uncertainty in her eyes remained. She returned to her console, her fingers moving deftly over the controls as she monitored the ship's systems. The faint hum of the engines filled the silence once more, a reminder of the fragile barrier that separated them from the void. As the Starfire continued its journey through the darkness, the crew could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. Every flicker on the sensors, every faint echo in the ship's systems, seemed to carry the possibility of discovery or danger. The stars outside seemed to grow dimmer, their light fading into the vast emptiness, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for them to uncover the truth. And somewhere, hidden in the cold, unyielding void, the truth waited. Silent. Patient. Watching. The air on the bridge grew heavy as the stillness of space was suddenly interrupted. Commander Mia Harper's voice broke sharply through the quiet, her tone urgent yet controlled. "Captain," she said, her words cutting through the tension like a blade. "Sensors are picking up multiple objects approaching alien ships." Ethan Carter turned swiftly, his piercing gaze locking onto Mia. For a moment, the hum of the ship seemed to fade, leaving only the sound of his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. Alien ships. The words hung in the air, electric with both dread and fascination. He stepped forward, his boots echoing faintly against the metallic floor, as all eyes turned toward the main screen. With a flicker, the display came to life, casting an eerie glow across the bridge. There, against the infinite blackness of space, a fleet of alien vessels emerged from the void. They moved with an unnatural precision, sleek and angular, their surfaces glinting faintly as if they absorbed and reflected the light of the distant stars. The ships were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, elegant yet menacing, their design exuding a cold, calculated efficiency. The bridge fell silent as the alien fleet came to a halt just outside the Starfire's weapons range. The stillness was deafening, each second stretching into eternity as the crew waited for what would come next. Ethan's jaw tightened, his mind racing through possibilities. Was this an ambush? A warning? Or something else entirely? Then, without warning, a signal broke through, cutting across the ship's communication systems. The static crackled for a moment before resolving into an image, a figure, humanoid yet unmistakably alien, appearing on the screen. The alien commander was tall and imposing, his silver-blue skin shimmering faintly as if it were made of liquid metal. His large, unblinking eyes glowed softly, pools of endless black that seemed to pierce through the screen and into the very souls of those watching. His face was expressionless, yet there was an undeniable air of authority about him, a presence that demanded attention. "You have entered space of interest to us," the alien said, his voice smooth but devoid of warmth. It carried an otherworldly resonance, as if it echoed from a place beyond time and space. The words were simple, yet there was an unspoken weight behind them, a warning that needed no further elaboration. Ethan stepped forward, his posture calm but commanding. He met the alien's gaze, refusing to show any sign of fear. "I am Captain Ethan Carter of the USS Starfire," he said, his voice steady. We are on a mission to investigate the disappearance of 6 colony ships in this region. We mean no harm and seek only answers." The alien Zorg, as he would later introduce himself, tilted his head slightly, the movement almost mechanical. For a moment, there was silence, the kind that seemed to stretch endlessly, each second filled with the weight of the unknown. Then Zorg spoke again, his tone unchanged, chillingly calm. "We are aware of your mission," he said, his unblinking eyes fixed on Ethan. "And we are aware of the ships you seek. They have crossed into realms beyond your understanding." The words sent a shiver through the bridge, a ripple of unease that no one dared voice. Ethan's expression remained composed, but his mind raced. Realms beyond understanding? What did that mean? Were they alive? Lost? Or worse? Before he could respond, Zorg continued, his voice cutting through the captain's thoughts. "We would like to scan your vessel." The request, or perhaps the demand, hung in the air like a storm cloud. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, the tension on the bridge thick enough to choke. Ethan felt the weight of their stares, the unspoken question in their eyes, "What do we do?" He turned back to the screen, his gaze locking onto Zorg once more. There was no emotion in the alien's face, no hint of malice or goodwill. It was as though he were studying them, dissecting their every move, their every word, with a cold, clinical precision. Ethan's mind worked quickly, weighing the risks. Allowing an alien fleet to scan their ship could reveal vulnerabilities, secrets that humanity wasn't ready to share. But refusing could escalate the situation, turning this tense encounter into an outright conflict. And with the alien ships outnumbering and outgunning them, it wasn't a risk he was eager to take. "What is the purpose of your scan?" Ethan asked, his tone calm but firm. He needed to buy time, to assess the situation further. "Our mission is peaceful. We have nothing to hide, but I must understand your intentions." Zorg's head tilted again, the faintest flicker of something amusement, crossing his otherwise emotionless face. "Your vessel is unlike others we have encountered," he said. "We wish to understand its capabilities. Its purpose." The way he said the word purpose sent a chill down Ethan's spine. It was as if Zorg wasn't just speaking about the ship, but something deeper, something more intrinsic. Ethan could feel the weight of the alien's gaze, as if Zorg could see through him, through the ship, through everything they were. The silence that followed was suffocating, the tension on the bridge palpable. Ethan turned slightly, his eyes meeting Mia's. She gave a small nod, her expression grim but resolute. Whatever decision he made, the crew would stand by him. They trusted him. Ethan turned back to Zorg, his decision made. "We will allow the scan," he said, his voice steady despite the unease coiling in his chest. "But only under the condition that no harm comes to my crew or my ship." Zorg's expression remained unchanged, but there was a faint flicker of acknowledgement in his eyes. "Agreed," he said simply. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in an eerie silence once more. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of what had just transpired settling over them like a shroud. Outside, the alien ships remained motionless, their sleek forms a stark contrast to the cold, empty void. Ethan took a deep breath, his hands tightening into fists at his sides. The encounter had left more questions than answers, but one thing was clear, they were no longer alone in this mystery. And whatever lay ahead, it was far more dangerous and far more alien than they had ever imagined. The atmosphere on the bridge was tense, a palpable anxiety hanging in the air. Ethan Carter stood resolute, his decision made despite the apprehensive murmurs of his crew. Allowing the alien scan was a gamble, a risk that could either bring answers or disaster. But Ethan was a man driven by the need to understand, to uncover the truth hidden in the void. With a deep breath, he initiated the defense protocol, a safeguard designed to control what the aliens could perceive. It was a delicate balance, allowing them enough to satisfy their curiosity while protecting the ship's most vital secrets. As the protocol engaged, a soft, shimmering blue light enveloped the Starfire, cascading over its surfaces like a gentle wave. The light was ethereal, almost beautiful, as it danced across the hull, casting fleeting patterns in its wake. Yet beneath its serene glow lay an undercurrent of tension, a reminder of the alien presence just beyond their reach. The crew watched in silence, their eyes fixed on the strange illumination, each of them acutely aware of the stakes. As the scan proceeded, Ethan turned his gaze to the screen where Zorg's image still lingered. The alien commander's expression had been one of calm detachment, a mask of unyielding control. But as the blue light continued its sweep, that mask began to crack. A flicker of something surprise, perhaps even fear crossed Zorg's features, his large eyes widening slightly. It was a subtle shift, but in that moment, the air seemed to change. The calm, calculated demeanor of the alien commander was replaced by a sudden urgency. Without a word, the Vorax fleet began to retreat, their sleek ships pulling away with a speed that defied comprehension. The motion was fluid, almost frantic, as if driven by an unseen force. The crew watched in stunned silence, the retreat of the alien ships leaving a void both literal and figurative. Mia was the first to break the silence, her voice filled with bewilderment. "Why did they run?" she asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. Ethan's jaw tightened, his mind racing to make sense of what had just transpired. The image of Zorg's shocked expression lingered in his thoughts, a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. The aliens had come with confidence, with purpose, and yet they had fled as if pursued by something far greater than themselves. "Fear," Ethan replied at last, his voice low and thoughtful. The word hung in the air, heavy with implications. But fear of what? What had they seen in the scan that had driven them to such a hasty retreat? The question gnawed at him, a mystery wrapped in shadows. It was not the fear of the unknown that troubled him, but the fear of something known, something recognized. The Vorax had seen something in the Starfire, something that had shaken them to their core. As the blue light faded, leaving the bridge in its familiar dimness, Ethan felt a chill creep up his spine. The retreat of the Vorax was not a victory, but a warning. Whatever they feared, it was something powerful, something that lay hidden within the depths of space or perhaps within themselves. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. They were left with more questions than answers, the mystery deepening with each passing moment. And as Ethan stared into the void where the Vorax fleet had vanished, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The beginning of a revelation that would change everything they thought they knew about the universe and about themselves. The Starfire drifted silently through the void, its engines humming softly as it shadowed the Vorax fleet from a cautious distance. Days passed in tense pursuit, the alien ships moving with purpose, as if desperate to reach the safety of their home. The crew of the Starfire grew restless, their thoughts consumed by the mystery that had unfolded. Why had the Vorax fled? What had they seen in the scan that had shaken them so profoundly? Finally, the destination came into view, a planet unlike anything the crew had ever seen. It hung in the blackness of space like a jewel, its surface glowing faintly with the light of its cities. This was no barren, alien wasteland. The Vorax homeworld was a marvel of advanced civilization, its continents blanketed with sprawling urban landscapes. From orbit, the cities glittered like constellations, their intricate patterns weaving across the planet's surface in a breathtaking display of light and life. The crew gathered at the observation deck, their faces pressed against the glass as they stared in awe. The cities were vast, their structures towering and elegant, built with a precision that spoke of a species far older and more advanced than humanity. Great spires rose into the sky, their surfaces shimmering with an iridescent glow, while immense transport networks crisscrossed the land like veins of light. Above the cities, massive ships hovered, their sleek forms casting long shadows over the planet below. But beneath the beauty lay an undeniable tension. The Vorax fleet descended toward the planet with urgency, their movements sharp and deliberate. There was no celebration of their return, no grand display of triumph. Instead, it felt like retreat, like they were running from something they couldn't escape. In the ship's laboratory, Dr. Oliver Hayes, the chief scientist, worked tirelessly, his eyes glued to the streams of intercepted communications from the Vorax. The room was dimly lit, the glow of monitors casting shadows across his face as he pieced together fragments of alien language and data. The tension in the air was thick, the weight of the unknown pressing down on him as he unraveled the meaning hidden within the transmissions. Finally, he turned to Ethan and Mia, who stood waiting nearby. His expression was grave, his voice heavy with the significance of what he had discovered. "They are calling us an existential threat," he said, his words cutting through the silence like a blade. Mia's brow furrowed, her confusion mirrored by the rest of the crew. "An existential threat," she repeated, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Why? What could they have seen in our ship to make them think that?" Dr. Hayes shook his head, his eyes dark with uncertainty. "I don't know," he admitted. "But whatever it was, it terrified them. They are afraid of us not just as explorers, but as something far more dangerous." The words sent a ripple of unease through the room, the reality of the situation sinking in. The Vorax, with all their advanced technology and their vast civilization, were afraid of the Starfire. It was a thought that defied logic, that turned the natural order of things on its head. Humanity was young, still taking its first steps into the cosmos. The Vorax were ancient, a species that had mastered the stars. And yet, they feared them. Ethan's jaw tightened, his mind racing. Fear was a powerful force, one that could drive even the most rational beings to act irrationally. If the Vorax truly saw the Starfire as a threat, what would they do to eliminate it? And more importantly, what had they seen that had sparked such fear? He turned back to the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the glittering planet below. The Vorax home world was a marvel, a testament to their ingenuity and power. But even here, in the heart of their civilization, there was no safety from the unknown. Whatever truth lay at the heart of this mystery, it was something that reached beyond the stars, beyond reason, beyond the limits of understanding. As the Starfire continued its silent vigil, Ethan felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. The Vorax were afraid, but so was he. Not of them, but of what lay hidden in the depths of the universe, something vast, something ancient, something that had been awakened by their presence. And as the days stretched on, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the mystery they pursued was watching them in return. The Vorax home world, a planet of shimmering cities and towering spires, was bathed in the pale light of its twin moons. Beneath the grandeur and beauty of its surface, however, a storm was brewing. Deep within the heart of the capital, in a chamber carved from black stone that seemed to drink the light, Supreme Leader Kratos sat at the head of a long obsidian table. Around him, the most powerful minds of the Vorax Empire gathered, their faces grim, their eyes reflecting the weight of the decision before them. The chamber was silent but charged with tension, the kind that seemed to hum in the air. Kratos, a towering figure with skin like polished silver and eyes that burned like embers, rose from his seat. His presence commanded attention, his voice low but carrying the weight of authority. "The humans," he began, his tone sharp and deliberate, "are a threat to our way of life." His words echoed through the chamber, and a ripple of unease passed through the council. The Voraks were a species that prided themselves on their dominance, their ability to bend the galaxy to their will. To hear their leader speak of a threat, especially one posed by a species as young and seemingly insignificant as humanity, was unsettling. Kratos continued, his gaze sweeping the room. They are not like the others we have encountered. Their technology is different. It defies reason, as if it does not belong to them, as if it is something far older, far more dangerous. What they carry aboard their ship could unravel everything we have built. One of the council members, a scholar with deep-set eyes and a voice like rusted metal, spoke up hesitantly. Supreme Leader, if they are truly so dangerous, why not destroy them now? Why allow them to linger, to observe us? Kratos's expression darkened, his voice dropping to a growl. Because we do not yet understand them. To act without knowledge is to invite disaster. We must learn the truth of their technology, how they came to possess it, what its purpose is. Only then can we neutralize the threat they pose. The word neutralize hung in the air, heavy and ominous. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, their thoughts racing. The Voraks were no strangers to conflict, but this was different. This was not a war of conquest or survival. This was a war of fear. Kratos raised a hand, silencing the murmurs that had begun to spread through the room. I have a plan, he said, his voice cold and calculating. We will invite the humans to a neutral space station under the guise of peace talks. They are curious, naive, they will come. And while we distract them with diplomacy, our fleet will mobilize. We will prepare for every possibility, for every outcome. If they prove unwilling to cooperate, we will strike. The room fell silent once more, the weight of Kratos's words settling over the council like a shroud. The plan was bold, ruthless, and entirely in line with the Voraks way. Yet beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of doubt, a flicker of something the Voraks rarely allowed themselves to feel, fear. Kratos's gaze hardened as he looked around the room, his voice rising with conviction. Make no mistake, he said, his tone sharp as a blade. This is not just about survival. This is about the future of our species, of our empire. The humans are a threat we cannot ignore. And we will not falter. The council members nodded reluctantly, their expressions a mix of resolve and unease. They were bound by duty, by loyalty to their leader and their people. Yet as they left the chamber, each of them carried the same thought in the back of their minds. What had the humans done to inspire such fear in their mighty empire? And what would happen if Kratos's plan failed? As the Voraks fleet began to mobilize in secret, the vast ships slipping silently into position, the twin moons of the home world cast their pale light over the planet below. The beauty of the Voraks civilization seemed almost fragile in that moment, as if it could shatter under the weight of the unknown. And as Kratos stared out at the stars from his chamber, his expression unreadable, one question lingered in his mind, was the true threat the humans or the ancient secret they carried? Ethan stood at the helm of the Starfire, the weight of the Voraks' invitation heavy on his mind. The message had been delivered with all the formalities of diplomacy, yet beneath the surface, he sensed the undercurrents of something far more sinister. The Voraks wanted to study them, to probe the depths of their technology and intentions. But Ethan was not naive. He knew this was a trap, a carefully laid snare meant to ensnare them in the web of Voraks' intrigue. Gathering his crew, Ethan spoke with a calm resolve that belied the tension simmering beneath his words. They want to study us, he told them, his gaze steady and unwavering. But we'll be studying them too. His eyes met those of each crew member, seeking and finding the spark of determination mirrored in their own. They were explorers, yes, but they were also survivors. And in this game of shadows, knowledge was their greatest weapon. As the Starfire approached the neutral space station, its sleek form gliding through the void. The crew prepared themselves for what lay ahead. The station loomed before them, a vast structure suspended in the cosmos, its lights twinkling like distant stars. It was a place of supposed peace, yet every shadow seemed to whisper of danger, every corridor a potential path to deception. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine as the ship docked, the metallic clang echoing through the hull like a portent of things to come. Stepping onto the station, he was acutely aware of the eyes watching them, the silent scrutiny of the Vorax representatives who greeted them with practiced smiles and hollow words of welcome. Meanwhile, far from the station's sterile halls, a different kind of mission was unfolding on the Vorax home world. A stealth team, handpicked by Ethan for their skills and discretion, moved like shadows through the alien cities. Cloaked in the darkness, they slipped past guards and surveillance, their footsteps silent on the polished streets. The team's leader, a woman named Lila, felt her heart pound with adrenaline as they infiltrated deeper into the heart of the Vorax Empire. Every corner turned revealed more of the alien civilization, its grandeur, its complexity, and its secrets. They uncovered whispers of the Vorax's true intentions, snippets of conversations that spoke of fear and power, of ancient technologies and forbidden knowledge. In the depths of a subterranean chamber, Lila and her team stumbled upon something that sent a chill through their souls. Hidden away from prying eyes, the Vorax had amassed a collection of artifacts and relics, each one pulsing with an energy that felt both alien and familiar. These were not mere curiosities, they were pieces of a puzzle, fragments of a truth that stretched back to the dawn of time. As Lila studied the artifacts, a realization dawned on her: a connection between the Vorax's fear and the technology aboard the Starfire. The Vorax were not just interested in human technology, they were terrified of it. Their fear was rooted in something ancient, something that resonated with the very fabric of the universe. Back on the station, Ethan sensed a shift in the air, the subtle change in the Vorax demeanor as they realized their guests were not as unsuspecting as they had hoped. The game was afoot, a dance of diplomacy and deception, where every word and gesture held the weight of worlds. As the talks continued, Ethan's mind remained focused, his thoughts a whirlwind of strategy and intuition. The Vorax were formidable, their empire vast and powerful. But they were also vulnerable, their fear a chink in the armor of their superiority. And as the Starfire crew navigated the treacherous waters of alien politics, they knew that the true battle was not one of weapons or might, but of knowledge and understanding. In the quiet moments, when the station's hum was the only sound, Ethan found himself gazing out into the stars, the vast expanse of space a reminder of the unknowns that lay ahead. The Vorax had set a trap, but in their arrogance, they had underestimated the resilience and cunning of their human counterparts. And as the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, Ethan felt a growing certainty that the key to unraveling the mystery lay not in the technology they carried, but in the courage and unity of those who wielded it. The air in the meeting chamber was thick with tension, though both sides wore masks of civility. The Vorax delegation, led by diplomat Zephyr, sat tall and composed, their silver skin gleaming faintly under the dim, artificial light. Their crimson eyes burned with a quiet hunger as they leaned in, eager to absorb every word spoken by the humans. Across the table, Ethan and his team exuded calm confidence, though beneath their composed exteriors, their hearts beat with the weight of the dangerous game they were playing. Ethan slid a sleek data tablet across the table, his expression unreadable. "These schematics," he said, his voice steady yet tinged with subtle challenge, "represent the core of our propulsion technology. It's the foundation of what makes human ships so unique." Zephyr's long, clawed fingers reached for the tablet, his movements deliberate, almost reverent. His lips curled into a faint smile as he studied the data, his sharp gaze scanning the intricate diagrams and calculations. "Impressive," he murmured, the faintest hint of triumph in his tone. It seems your species has made remarkable progress in such a short time. Ethan nodded, his expression carefully neutral. We believe in the power of shared knowledge, he said smoothly, though his words carried a hidden edge. If peace is to be achieved, trust must be established. Zephyr's smile widened, and for a moment, the predatory gleam in his eyes softened into something resembling satisfaction. He believed the humans had been outmaneuvered, that their trust had been won. He did not see the subtle glance Ethan exchanged with his crew, nor did he sense the quiet resolve that burned within them. As the Vorax delegation departed with their prize, Ethan turned to his team, his voice low but firm. They took the bait, he said. Now we wait for them to make their move. The schematics the humans had shared were masterfully crafted lies, a web of false data designed to mislead and confuse. Every detail had been carefully constructed to feed the Vorax's arrogance, to make them believe they had uncovered the secrets of human technology. But beneath the surface, the Starfire crew knew the truth. The Vorax's trust was a weapon, and they would wield it when the time came. The attack came without warning, as expected. The Vorax fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm, their ships sleek and menacing, their weapons charged with deadly intent. They moved with precision, their formation a testament to their confidence. They believed they held the upper hand, that the stolen data had given them the key to victory. But the Starfire was ready. Ethan stood on the bridge, his expression calm but his eyes blazing with determination. They've shown their hand, he said, his voice steady. Now we show ours. The Starfire sprang into action, its systems coming alive with a hum of power. The ship moved like a predator, swift and deliberate, its weapons targeting the Vorax fleet with unerring precision. Beams of energy lanced through the void, striking Vorax ships in their weakest points, disabling them with surgical accuracy. The Vorax, caught off guard, scrambled to regroup. Their confidence began to crumble as the Starfire danced through their ranks, evading their attacks with almost supernatural grace. The schematics they had stolen had been a trap, feeding them false vulnerabilities and leading them into a carefully laid ambush. And then, the true scale of the humans' plan was revealed. From the darkness of space, hidden Earth warships emerged, their hulls gleaming like ghosts in the starlight. They moved with quiet purpose, surrounding the Vorax fleet and cutting off their escape. The Vorax found themselves trapped, their once mighty formation now caught in a deadly crossfire. The battle was swift and brutal. The humans fought with a precision and unity that left the Vorax reeling. Each Earth ship seemed to anticipate the other's movements, their attacks coordinated to devastating effect. The void was filled with a glow of energy blasts and the silent explosions of crippled Vorax vessels. On the bridge of the Starfire, Ethan watched as the Vorax fleet faltered, their once imposing presence reduced to chaos. Yet his expression remained grim. "Hold your fire on the disabled ships," he ordered, his voice firm. "We're not here to destroy them. Just to show them what happens when they underestimate us." The Vorax, realizing the extent of their defeat, began to retreat, their remaining ships limping away into the void. The humans did not pursue. Their message had been delivered, their strength displayed for all to see. As silence fell over the battlefield, the Starfire and the Earth warships stood as sentinels, their presence a reminder of humanity's resilience and cunning. Ethan allowed himself a small, weary smile. The Vorax had sought to trap them, but in the end, it was they who had been ensnared. And though the battle was won, he knew the war was far from over. The aftermath of the battle hung heavy in the void, a thick silence enveloping the vast expanse of space, broken only by the distant echoes of Vorax ships retreating into the darkness. Supreme Leader Kratos stood on the bridge of his command vessel, a figure carved from shadows, his once imposing presence now diminished by the weight of defeat. The coldness of space felt unforgiving, wrapping around him like a shroud, a stark reminder of the empire he had lost. Kratos' eyes, once ablaze with ambition and ruthless determination, now reflected a somber realization. His dominion was crumbling, piece by piece, like a sandcastle swept away by the tide. The remnants of his fleet floated in disarray, a haunting testament to his hubris and the overconfidence that had led him to underestimate his adversaries. The humans, with their cunning strategies, had outmaneuvered him, unraveling the intricate tapestry of power he had woven across countless worlds. Across the communication link that connected their ships, Ethan stood tall and resolute, a beacon of hope amidst the despair. His voice carried a calm confidence, yet it was laced with an undeniable edge of triumph. "Your empire is built on sand," he declared, his words slicing through the silence like a blade. "And now it's crumbling." Each syllable resonated with the weight of victory, a stark contrast to the desolation surrounding Kratos. Kratos' jaw tightened, his pride battling against the harsh reality of his situation. He felt the sting of defeat, yet beneath a veneer of defiance, there flickered a glimmer of something unexpected, a grudging respect for the humans who had bested him. With a heavy heart, he nodded, a reluctant gesture of surrender that spoke volumes in the quiet aftermath of chaos. As Kratos issued the command to stand down, a surge of relief washed over Ethan, intertwining with the gravity of what lay ahead. The humans moved swiftly, their forces spreading out to liberate the worlds that had suffered under Vorak's rule. Each planet reclaimed was not just a strategic victory, it was a step toward dismantling the oppressive regime, a beacon of hope for those who had endured years of subjugation and fear. The skies of these newly freed worlds erupted with the cheers of their inhabitants, their joy radiating like a vibrant pulse across the cosmos. People poured into the streets, their faces alight with newfound hope, laughter mingling with tears of relief. The humans, once seen merely as explorers, had transformed into liberators, their courageous actions igniting a flame of rebellion that would burn brightly in the hearts of the oppressed. In that moment of surrender, as the echoes of the past faded into the void, a new chapter began to unfold. The universe, once steeped in darkness, now shimmered with the promise of freedom and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to rise against tyranny. On the Vorak's home world, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation, electric with the promise of change. Representatives from the liberated species gathered in a grand hall, their presence a vivid testament to the unity forged in the fires of resistance. The room was a tapestry of colors and forms, each individual a living symbol of the diverse life that had been stifled beneath Vorak's rule. Bright fabrics draped over shoulders, intricate patterns woven into their attire telling stories of cultures once silenced. The air was thick with expectation, a palpable energy that resonated through the gathering. Kratos, though defeated, stood with a dignity that refused to be extinguished. He was a figure of contrasts, his stature imposing, yet his spirit weighed down by the burden of his past. As he surveyed the assembly, his eyes swept over the faces of those who had once feared him, who had lived under the shadow of his tyranny. Each gaze met his with a mixture of wariness and hope, a reflection of the complex emotions swirling in the room. The weight of his choices bore down on him, yet he held his head high, determined to face the consequences with whatever honor he could muster. Ethan approached the table where the treaty lay, a simple document that represented the end of an era and the beginning of something new. The parchment was unadorned, yet it felt monumental, the ink that would soon grace its surface imbued with the dreams of countless souls yearning for freedom. As Ethan's gaze met Kratos's, a profound understanding passed between the silent acknowledgement of the past and the myriad possibilities that lay ahead. In that moment, the air felt charged, as if the very fabric of destiny was shifting. "We believe in second chances," Ethan said, his voice carrying across the hall with quiet strength, cutting through the tension like a warm light. "Use this one wisely." His words hung in the air, resonating deeply within the hearts of those present. They were not just words, they were a call to action, an invitation to rebuild and to heal. Kratos hesitated for a heartbeat, his heart pounding in his chest. The weight of his past loomed large, but in the depths of his soul, he felt a flicker of hope. He reached out, taking the pen offered to him, his hand steady despite the gravity of the moment. With each stroke of ink, he signed the treaty, the act transforming into a symbol of redemption. The sound of the pen against the parchment echoed in the silence, a promise etched in time. The act was met with a ripple of applause, a sound that resonated with hope and the promise of a new beginning. It was a chorus of voices rising together, celebrating not just the signing, but the shared determination to forge a better future. As the assembly dispersed, the liberated species began to forge their own paths, free from the shadow of Vorak's oppression. The air was alive with optimism, a sense of renewal infusing every corner of the Vorak's home world. Laughter and conversation filled the hallways, as alliances were formed and friendships rekindled. People embraced, their smiles wide and genuine, a stark contrast to the fear that had once gripped them. Dreams of a brighter future took root, each vision a seed planted in the fertile ground of newfound freedom. The Vorak's empire, once a monolith of power, had been dismantled, its echoes fading into the annals of history. In its place, a new order emerged, one built on cooperation and mutual respect. The walls that had once confined them began to crumble, replaced by bridges of understanding that connected diverse cultures and perspectives. As the stars shone down upon this transformed world, casting a gentle glow over the celebrations, Ethan knew that the journey toward peace and understanding had only just begun. The night was alive with possibilities, a canvas waiting to be painted with the colors of unity and hope. The skies above the liberated worlds shimmered with a new light, as if the stars themselves celebrated the dawn of a new era. A gentle glow bathed the landscapes below, illuminating the faces of delegates from countless species gathered on Earth. Each individual was a testament to the resilience of life, their forms and features as varied as the galaxies they hailed from. Some bore the scars of the Vorax's oppression, deep lines etched into their skin, while others carried invisible wounds, haunting memories lurking beneath the surface. Yet, in this moment of gathering, those scars seemed to fade, replaced by a burgeoning hope and the promise of unity. In the Grand Hall of Earth's Interstellar Council, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The banners of the newly formed alliance hung proudly from the high ceilings, their vibrant colors and intricate symbols weaving together the rich stories of countless civilizations. Each banner fluttered gently, as if whispering tales of struggle and triumph. At the center of this gathering stood Ethan, his presence commanding yet humble, embodying the spirit of humanity's resolve. The weight of the moment rested heavily on his shoulders, but he stood firm, ready to embrace the future. "We are not here to rule," Ethan began, his voice steady and clear, resonating through the vast chamber. The words flowed like a river, reaching every corner of the hall and wrapping around the delegates like a warm embrace. "We are here to guide, to stand beside you as equals. Humanity fights for freedom, not conquest. That's what makes us strong." His declaration hung in the air, a beacon of clarity amidst the uncertainty. As his words echoed, a stirring rippled through the crowd, igniting something primal within them. Even Commander Zork, the Vorak's representative, could not hide the flicker of understanding in his eyes. Stripped of their military might, the Voraks were no longer conquerors but participants in something far greater. For the first time in generations, they were given a chance to rebuild not as oppressors, but as equals. The weight of history hung in the air, and for Zork, the possibility of redemption shimmered like a distant star. After the speech, Zork approached Ethan, his towering form casting a long shadow across the polished floor. Yet his demeanor was no longer threatening, instead, it radiated a newfound respect. "Your people," he said, his voice gruff but sincere, "are unlike any we have faced. You fight not for domination, but for something far greater. Perhaps there is strength in that." The sincerity in his tone was palpable, a bridge being built between past animosities and a hopeful future. Ethan met Zork's gaze, his expression unwavering, filled with empathy and resolve. "Strength comes from unity," he replied, his words deliberate and heartfelt. "From understanding that freedom is worth protecting not just for ourselves, but for everyone." In that moment, a silent agreement passed between them, a recognition of shared purpose that transcended their histories. As the alliance was formally signed into existence, the room erupted in applause. The sound was not merely one of celebration, it was a profound expression of determination, a collective vow to protect the fragile peace they had forged. The liberated worlds, once fractured and isolated, now stood together, their diversity their greatest strength. Each clap was a heartbeat, echoing with the promise of collaboration and mutual respect, a symphony of hope that resonated through the hall and beyond. As the delegates exchanged smiles and embraces, the hall felt alive with possibility. The air was thick with the scent of fresh beginnings, and laughter mingled with the solemnity of the moment. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, united in their commitment to a future where freedom reigned, and oppression was but a fading memory. The Starfire floated serenely in the quiet expanse of space, its sleek form a sentinel against the vast darkness that surrounded it. The ship, with its polished hull glinting under distant starlight, seemed almost alive, a guardian of hope in a universe fraught with uncertainty. On the bridge, the crew moved with practiced efficiency, each member attuned to their roles, their focus unwavering. Yet beneath the surface, an undercurrent of anticipation pulsed through the air, a shared understanding that their journey was far from over. Dr. Hayes stood before Ethan, her expression a blend of concern and curiosity. The tension in her posture spoke volumes, a silent testament to the weight of her words. "We've detected unusual activity in the Delta Quadrant," she reported, her voice steady despite the implications. "Another Empire expansionist, by the looks of it. They've noticed us, Ethan. They are scanning our ships, watching our movements." Her eyes searched his for a reaction, a flicker of reassurance amidst the looming threat. Ethan leaned back in his chair, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips, a reflection of his calm demeanor. His eyes sparkled with a quiet confidence, the kind forged in the crucible of countless battles and hard-won victories. "Let them scan," he replied, his voice calm but laced with a steely resolve. "Let them see what happens to those who threaten freedom." Each word was a declaration, echoing with the strength of his convictions. The crew exchanged glances, their expressions mirroring Ethan's resolve. They had faced impossible odds before, and they would do so again if necessary. The Starfire was more than just a ship to them, it was a symbol of resistance, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. The camaraderie among them felt tangible, a bond forged in the fires of struggle and hope. As the ship prepared to leave Vorax space, the stars beyond the viewport shimmered with new possibilities, each twinkle a reminder of the adventures yet to come. The Delta Quadrant loomed on the horizon, dark and foreboding, a shadow that whispered of challenges ahead. Yet the crew of the Starfire stood ready, emboldened by the lessons of the past and the strength of their newfound allies. They carried with them the unshakable belief that no empire, no matter how vast, could stand against the united will of those who fought for justice. Ethan moved to the viewport, his gaze fixed on the distant stars, a sea of light against the black canvas of space. "Every challenge," he murmured, almost to himself, as if the cosmos were listening, "is an opportunity to prove who we are." His voice was soft yet resonant, filled with the weight of responsibility and the thrill of possibility. As the Starfire surged forward, its engines humming with purpose, the crew felt a surge of determination coursing through them. They knew one thing for certain: no matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. For freedom was not just a cause, it was their destiny, a fire that burned brightly in their hearts, guiding them through the darkness. The stars beckoned, and with every pulse of the ship's engines, they moved closer to the next chapter of their journey, ready to confront whatever awaited them in the unknown.